Hundreds gathered today in Charlottesville, Virginia to remember Heather Heyer. She, of course, is the 32-year-old woman who was killed when a car driven by a 20-year-old reported neo-Nazi sympathizer drove into a crowd of protesters on Saturday. Among them were her parents, who assured the crowd her legacy would live on.
She loved people. She wanted equality. And in this issue of the day of her passing, she wanted to put down hate.
They tried to kill my child to shut her up. Well, guess what? You just magnified her.
In the hours immediately after Heyer's death, Donald Trump got a lot of heat for blaming what he called many sides for the hatred and violence. 2 days later, he more directly called out racist groups like the KKK and neo-Nazis. But then last night, he doubled down on his original message.
I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it. Not all of those people were neo-Nazis, believe me. Not all of those people were white supremacists by any stretch. What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right? Do they have any semblance of guilt? What about the fact they came charging with clubs in their hands, swinging clubs? Do they have any problem? I think they do.
It's a hard argument to hear when you see the 22-minute documentary HBO's Vice released this week, an inside look at the extremist groups who came to protest.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
Blood and soil, a Nazi mantra. Chilling images, especially as we learned today that the city of Boston has approved a permit for a controversial free speech rally in our city this Saturday. There are some caveats, however. Joining me with the details are Boston Mayor Marty Walsh. Good to see you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for being here. Boston Police Commissioner Bill Evans. Commissioner, thank you for being here. My understanding is, as I said, permits have been granted, but with some conditions, so Saturday will go on, yes?
Yeah, well, in this group that to our knowledge, that's coming to Boston Saturday is not the same group that was in Virginia last weekend. I mean, they might have the same similar name to it, but they're different people altogether.
But there were some speakers until some started pulling out. There were as many as 3.
Allegedly, there was two
that
was supposedly in both, but I think now they're down to 3 speakers, 4 speakers.
They say on their Facebook page, Mr. Mayor, I'm sure you know this, that they don't support bigotry. They're against white supremacy. Mm-hmm. Is it possible everybody, including you, overreacted to this rally in the wake of Charlottesville?
I don't know if I'd say we overreacted. I think we're going to be very careful. I think the press certainly overreacted in the sense of before we even get to the beginning, they were asking all kinds of questions, and I think that kind of set us up for everything being played out minute by minute in the press. And to that point now we've had a chance, the Commission had a chance today to meet with them to talk about the rules and regulations of getting a permit in order to get a permit, and they were fine with everything that was put in front of them today.
What are the conditions, Commissioner, for this thing to go ahead on Saturday?
Well, we asked both sides, basically. Obviously, we want everyone to protest peacefully, respectfully, and we really make clear we don't want anyone hurt. So we asked them, not to bring sticks with the signs, not to bring anything that can be used as a weapon, and like we have with the marathon and anywhere we have large crowds, to leave the backpacks at home. So, and if they're there, we're going to obviously they'll be subject to search, because we don't want any type of weapons out there that can hurt anyone, and hopefully we have a very peaceful day.
I want to ask you if you learned anything from the police response in Charlottesville. Here's the governor, who I'm sure you know, Terry McAuliffe. Yeah. Here's what he had to say the day after Heather Heyer was killed.
I want to thank the men and women, local, state, and federal, our law enforcement personnel who put their lives on the line yesterday to protect us. Not one single shot was fired. With all these people with weapons, no property damage. They kept us safe.
He's about the only one I've heard who was praising the police there. Many people, on both sides, by the way, said there was no police presence. A woman who was assaulted, I heard on television this morning or last night, said, I was getting pummeled, I couldn't see. Is the criticism merited from what you see from hundreds of miles away?
Well, I think clearly that either the police or barriers should have been in between. When I seen it, I can't believe that they let them go at it like that.
Isn't that a fundamental?
Well, it is. But the good thing, Jim, is we have a lot of practice at this. We dealt with the Occupy movement, the Patriots parades, and we've learned how to separate crowds and keep different factions apart, even with the Black Lives Matter. And, we have a very soft approach. We never have the helmets, the sticks, and we engage in dialogue. So I'm hoping, we won't have any issues on Saturday.
But did I not hear you say the other day, Mr. Mayor, that gear that we've never seen on the police might be worn?
Absolutely. I mean, we want to make sure our police department is safe here in this situation. And I think the other protests that have happened in our city, the other marches in our city, has been in reaction to violence or police-involved shootings in other cities and towns. This is a different situation, and we're dealing with what happened in Charlottesville. I mean, again, we don't think the same situation could happen here in Boston, but talking to the commissioner, we're not putting our police officers out there to get assaulted.
Do you worry about that? I mean, I've talked to you a lot, Marjorie Egan and I on the radio a lot, about how you are very proud of the fact that you haven't been in a position to have to wear that stuff because you think it makes a statement.
It's available, and again, we've had a lot of good dialogue, and we haven't got it to that level. It doesn't mean, the equipment isn't close by, and we have what we call public order platoons that we can bring in a minute.
I see. So it's ready if you need it.
It's a measured approach. It starts very soft, and we can pick it up. If things are going to get thrown at us and we're going to get assaulted, then I'm not going to leave my officers out there to get injured.
You had some really strong words the other day after Charlottesville. I played them last night. I'll read them now. We reject racism. We reject white supremacy. We reject anti-Semitism, and on and on. And as you know, just hours later, this 17-year-old kid throws a rock at the Holocaust Memorial. Do you worry as a leader of a city and a police commissioner that this what's in the air?
Yeah, no, we talk about it every day. I mean, what we should be focused on is what's happening in some of the neighborhoods and how do we get some of the kids that are involved in these gangs in our city, how do we get them out of gangs? But now we have a whole complexity of new issues. When the commissioner called me 2 nights ago to let me know early in the night to tell me that somebody had broken another glass panel on the Holocaust Memorial, and I think a 17-year-old kid from Malden. I'm like, this is terrible. What's going on?
0 in 20 years, and then 2 in 2 months.
And just when you feel the feeling out there. I mean, even people talking about national politics. I've had many heated conversations about the Clintons and the Bushes and about Mitt Romney and things like that. There's a whole new level of and the president, I think, is setting the tone here. A whole new level of anger.
Do you think he incites people with his words?
I don't know if he incites them, but he certainly, once it happens, he keeps it going.
You're nodding and saying yes. Do you think he incites people by what he says?
No, I was just agreeing with the mayor that things aren't what they used to be. It seems like between North Korea, South Korea, there just seems to be a lot of uncertainty and uneasiness in the world.
But with all due respect, is it the uncertainty or is it the language that, speaking just for myself, is in my opinion unconscionable?
The last press conference the president had there
yesterday,
I think it was in New York, Trump Towers. It seemed like that was uncalled for. Right. And I think that there's a time where you just, whatever your feeling is, you just let it go. There's a lot of feeling in the country. He should know that there's a rally coming to Boston. There's probably rallies going to other cities and towns across America right now. What he should be doing is not worrying about them acting up and having riots in the cities. He should be hoping that we can get through this day, Saturday, peacefully. He has to stop the rhetoric like that. It's like if I got in front of a camera tonight and said to the peaceful people going to the Common, don't take any guff from anybody and go in there and own that park. What I'm saying is go in there and stamp all over people. I'm not saying that. What we're saying very clearly here in Boston is respect Boston Common, respect the city of Boston. We don't want and don't need any hateful language used in the city of Boston. And if you're going to do that, don't come to our city.
Speaking of hateful language, does it worry you? I'm sure you've read about this young kid, this Nicholas Fuentes, a BU student who was at the rally in Charlottesville, who is dropping out of BU, according to the Globe, because he's gotten, I think he said, 15 death threats, just because there's no report that he participated in violence, but he did participate with a protest, and now he feels he can't safely, his words, he can't safely attend Boston University. Does that worry you, concern you?
I don't know the circumstances behind it. I don't know how so many people found out he was there, so he must have talked to, I don't know what the situation around the case is.
And if it turns out you were, if
he gets death threats, he should report to the police department.
And what would you have done?
Well, we would have contacted him. We would have looked into it. But I think we all see how far social media has come and how it's taken off. I mean, we monitor all the time social media, but it's the dangers. We try to tell young kids and the gang kids and everybody. There's too much drama with social media nowadays.
I want to broach one more thing with you on a related thing, Mr. Mayor, because you've been pretty outspoken around a lot of Donald Trump's pronouncements. Immediately after his statements this weekend, Monday morning, the CEO of Merck resigned from one of his business councils. We're going to talk about this with the CEO in a couple of minutes. Monday, just hours after that, here's what the CEO of GE's board, the chair of GE's board, Jeff Immelt, had to say. GE has no tolerance for hate, bigotry, or racism. We strongly condemn the violent extremism in Charlottesville over the weekend. It's important for GE to participate in the discussion on how to drive growth and productivity in the U.S. Therefore, Jeff Immelt, former CEO, now chair of the board, will remain on the Presidential Committee on American Manufacturing while he's the chair of GE. Now, that was Monday. This morning, almost like Donald Trump 2 days later, he resigns literally minutes before we hear that they're going to shut down the commissions themselves. Does that not trouble you? You spent a lot of money, put a lot of energy, a lot of heart into bringing GE to town, and the leader of this company felt it was the right thing for his company to stay with Donald Trump after this?
I don't mean to sound like I'm defending Jeff Immelt, but I've had conversations with Jeff about the president and about Washington and about how do we make sure that this ship in Washington goes on the right course. And I think part of his response, probably trying to stay on that, was because of that reason. Obviously, Donald Trump allegedly disbanded it today or yesterday, whatever day it was, and now there's no it's a shame what's going on in Washington.
But does it trouble you that a CEO of a really important company that you essentially gave a stamp of approval to, and some
that's his call,
decided for a couple, doesn't bother you?
That's his call.
Fair enough. You're hopeful about Saturday?
I think we'll be fine. I have full faith and trust in the Boston Police Department and the people of Boston. We've gone through toughest things in our history, and I hope that people come into our city and treat it with respect.
So do we all. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for your time. Commissioner, thank you. Good to see you both, gentlemen.